what is it that couples choose? How do they choose their destination, and how do you ask them to choose it?
So I think it's really important rather than just, looking at destinations. I think first you have to look at yourself. You have to ask yourself what are the things you all are passionate about as a couple. What are some special memories you want to make together? Is there any location that you all have always dreamed of visiting together? That should be the first question you ask yourself. The second question also you need to ask is about seasonality and when you're traveling.
Yeah.
Because obviously honeymoon dates are going to be determined by the wedding dates.
Correct, which is typically, at least in India, it is between, November to February, March.
Typically.
And then again in the summers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Typically, it would be a winter wedding. Usually, we see
Yeah.
more of. So that sort of limits the choice a bit, because obviously you can't go to a place like Santorini or the south of France in Feb or March. It's going to be too cold. It's not going to be enjoyable.
Yes.
So looking at the when is also important. And lastly, it's also important to consider logistics, because a lot of our bucket list honeymoon destinations are very challenging to reach. Like Bora Bora, for example, needs 4 flights to get there.
Oh wow!
It's a minimum of 4 flights.
And there will be some couples who yet do that.
Yeah, I mean there are. We've done a lot of amazing honeymoons in French Polynesia. It's one of the places I would like to go to for my honeymoon.
Lovely.
But it's logistically challenging, so you need to make sure you have that amount of time and that amount of will to get there. It's not going to be easy. So if you want something easy, it might not be for you. So I think asking these questions first is very important. So to make sure you have a destination that you're going to love and a destination you're going to enjoy with all the logistics.
So let's start talking destinations.
Yeah.
And while we're talking New Zealand, maybe we can start with Australia, New Zealand.
Correct. I think both are fantastic for honeymoons. I think New Zealand's always been one of the very famous honeymoon destinations.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most popular honeymoon destinations, and with very good reason. I think it's perfect for those who love natural beauty, for those who like being outdoors, and those who like the mountains. Because you have the Southern Alps, which are a beautiful mountain range. You've got a ton of activities too. You've got everything from adventure sports, bungee jumping. You can do helicopter rides, and there are some stunning lodges in New Zealand. Like there's one villa which looks like it's right out of a James Bond movie. There's this one lodge which we book, which you can only get to by helicopter.
Does it have a lot of inventory or
3 rooms?
Oh, just 3 rooms.
Only 3 rooms. So it's in the middle of the mountains. You can only get there by helicopter. It's actually a sheep farm which they've turned into a hotel. So it's a very, very unique experience, and that's the sort of thing that you only get in places like New Zealand, where they have this spectacular natural beauty. And I think Australia is really good for honeymoons because it gives a mix of everything.
Yeah.
Like New Zealand, it's only about nature.
Yeah.
Australia has some cities as well.
True.
So you have amazing cities like Melbourne and Sydney, which have everything from fine dining, adventure sports. You've got the Harbour Bridge. Exactly, you've got everything in these cities. But then you also have natural beauty. You've got the Great Barrier Reef in Australia for anyone who wants beaches.
Hunters Valley.
Yeah. You've got Hunter Valley. You've got the Barossa for wine and this thing. And then you also have some lesser known places like Tasmania is getting a lot of popularity because it's very naturally beautiful. They grow amazing wine out there. And for people who are into food, they've got amazing oyster farms out there. So there's this oyster farm experience in Tasmania where you put on these waders and they set up a table for you in the middle of the oyster farm, pick out the oysters from the farm, and you eat it live out there with sparkling wine.
And then Africa, let's talk Africa in depth, because I know it's your personal favorite.
Yeah. So I was going to say, if there was one place which I would go back to again and again, it's Africa. I think I've had the best trips of my life out there.
When people think of Africa, they only think of safari. The non-safari and safari.
Yeah. So I think Africa has everything that one could want. Obviously, safari is a major draw in Africa, particularly Eastern and Southern Africa. I think a safari holiday is one of the best holidays you can do, especially for a honeymoon, because you have an activity in the day to keep you busy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, on a honeymoon, you're always struggling to create an itinerary. And with a safari, you have a great activity for all day. A lot of safaris, you even have different activities. Like, for example, we know a place in Kenya where you can do horseback safaris. We've actually had clients get up close with rhinos while riding horses. Then in Zambia and Botswana, you can do safaris by boat. So you can do them either by motorboat or even in canoes.
Oh, nice.
So because the canoes are so silent, you can actually get much closer to the animals, get a much more unique experience. And then of course you have your game drives. And then for me, the beautiful thing about an African safari is how immersive the experience is.
Yeah.
When you're staying at the lodge, it's in the national park. You have the freedom to move around anywhere. You can get off the jeep. You can have your sundowners in the middle of the wild with nobody else around. I think that's such a romantic thing, you know? Just you, your loved one, and nature. So I think that's one of my favorite things about Africa. And the camps out there, they do these beautiful, beautiful setups. Like, you know, when we were in Botswana, they took us to a location and we reached there and there was this entire buffet breakfast setup along with a chef who was making eggs for us live. In the middle of the bush. So, you know, setups like that, it's only possible in a place like Africa where they have that space.
I think they just do it so right.
They do it so well. They do it so well, and that's just the safari bit of it. And if you look at the non-safari bit of it, for example, I love South Africa for honeymoons because you get a bit of everything.
Cape Town is beautiful.
You have everything a couple could want. You've got Kruger and you know Swalu and a couple of other great safari destinations, but you also have the vineyards which have great wine, great food. Some like truly outstanding restaurants. You've got the entire garden route where you can do whale watching, you can do, you know, outdoor adventures. You've got even beaches out there. And then you've got Cape Town, which is a beautiful cosmopolitan city with everything you could want. It's got great art,
and
great history, great beaches, great hotels, everything you could want. So, you know, it gives you a bit of everything for a honeymoon.
And then, of course, the Europe.
Yeah, so...
Oh, God, that's going to take us a few hours, I think. But yeah, I'm sure you'll sum it up for us.
Yeah, so I think Europe, I think, again, no matter which time of the year you're going, there is a great itinerary to be had in Europe. In the winter, of course, I think the main draw nowadays is Northern Lights. I think that's become all of the, like, it's, everyone wants to see the Northern Lights and with very good region.
Recently, I saw all my London friends. And my son lives there. So I saw all of them posting pictures of the Northern Lights happening in London. You know, I mean, of course, it was a short glimpse, but people go to for Northern Lights too.
I love Finland for the Northern Lights, particularly because it feels like a complete winter wonderland when you're out there in that season. It's white everywhere, there's snow, and there's a lot of activities. Like, you can go snowmobiling, you can go dog sledding with huskies. So you have these frozen lakes and you can just ride for miles and miles. You can even do like sports car driving on frozen lakes, ice driving, which is really cool. But I think it's something that you should do once in your life.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure. I mean, whether for a honeymoon or no, I don't know, but definitely one should.
But I think it's great for a honeymoon, right? It's nice, it's pretty outside, it's cozy.
You can start with a uniqueness.
Exactly.